And welcome to everybody who's listening today, to new followers and to old followers. We're really grateful that you are joining and tapping into the Awakening Process Podcast 101. And today we're going to do a little short introduction of Pernilla, who is the founder and the creator and the photographer and the writer. And
the mother.
Yeah, the mother, but let's skip the mother for a while. But, I think that, no, but I wanted to say maybe the spirit behind this extremely beautiful, resourced, full website, Awakening 101, and also the creator of this podcast. So, welcome, Pernilla.
Hi, I'm Pernilla Burke, and I am like Louise said, all those things of Awakening 101. And together with Louise, we've created this podcast that is, it's I don't know if it's the result of the website or it's actually what was supposed to happen even before we had made the website, because it's everything. Now that we've been doing this podcast for a few weeks, it feels like it's all really meant to be, and it's a conversation about awakening that was always meant to happen. We're lucky to have each other. Louise and I were best friends since we were 4 years old, and we've had very similar journeys, and we're sort of perfectly matched, in my opinion, to have a conversation about life's purpose, and the idea of awakening in your life.
Exactly. Thank you, Pernilla. That was really nice to hear. I have to say that since we started this podcast and since I've been talking to Pernilla and we had these discussions, and I also been, surfing around and also be a little bit nerdy about certain things on your website, it actually have created more awakening moments for me. And even though I had awakening moments before, I just think they're coming in a different shape and in a different form. I think it's popping up regularly every day, and I think that's wonderful. I think it gives me a calm. It gives me a reason to be here. And also I discovered lately that it helps. It actually calms my nervous system. I become much more calmer. So I think that everyone who's listening, give this a chance. Join us. I mean, it's supposed to be fun and interesting. Of course, sometimes it sounds maybe complicated, but we really try to bring it down so you can get tools to work with it. And that brings us into today's theme and what we're going to talk about today. So,
can I just say something about what you said about what the changes that you felt? I think that the whole idea of bringing spiritual concepts into conversation is so much more easily digestible and maybe easier to assimilate into your understanding than I mean, I read 1,000 books, don't get me wrong, and I listen to lectures, I go to workshops and stuff, but sometimes conversations sort of get, at least for somebody like you, Louise, like you've had so much education and study and in spirituality, in Buddhism specifically. But I think that it's something about a conversation about it that sort of gets it to sink in, maybe, at least for you. And then if you're having these conversations like we're having them almost every week now, it's a reminder, the same thing, like people go to AA and they go to meetings, they go back to the meeting to be reminded that, oh, these are the things I need to think about. So we have a moment and we get reminded. We talk about spiritual things. We talk about the concepts of Awakening 101, things that are very, people have heard about, love and devotion that we're going to talk about today, tools of yoga, meditation. We're just talking about this and how we learned from using these tools and how it strengthened our practice. So I think that this format is really helpful for understanding in your own life.
So actually it's just to join us on our journey and tap in, and then I think it will fall out very natural if you're just curious about it, and try to, and try to set a little bit time to decide to discover what's going on.
Yeah.
So yes, wonderful. So you mentioned it, that today's theme today is devotion. And before we're tapping into devotion, we're also going to talk a little bit about Hanuman.
Oh, Hanuman.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, talk about what? I'm in my pajamas. Like, I don't know what's going on. So, and I really want to make sure that like this conversation isn't gonna like people go, oh my God, now they're talking about like Hindu gods and this is like really out there so I just want to preface that like everybody has, oh well, not everybody, I can't say that as a blank statement, right? Like everybody, but a lot of people have something or somebody in their life that resembles some sort of guide, some sort of idea of, oh yeah, this person has characteristics or does things that I would like to do, or I would like to be like this person. Like for me, when I was a kid, sometimes it was my grandmother who seemed to really, she seemed to be somebody who loved life. She was happy. She played the piano. She had tons of friends. Every time I visited her, it was fun. She did things, made pancakes and so everybody has somebody that they can sort of look to, or hopefully, sometimes it's a parent. So Hanuman, for me, is that guide. So he represents a sort of a group of spiritual principles, just like people have Jesus, or you have, you have Buddhism, and I don't know if it's the specifically Buddha. It's the leader of the part of your Buddhism. I think that is the right. What's his name?
Yeah.
The guy.
Shakyamuni Buddha, Siddhartha.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, so Hanuman is somebody who is that person for me, and you can see here in the background. I'm so happy that I sat here today because I have 2 pictures of him. So one of the things, so I met Hanuman years ago, and I had sort of one of those spiritual experiences when I was at a Ram Dass retreat, which these days, when I think about it, like the fact that I ended up randomly at a Ram Dass retreat when he was still alive, Deepak Chopra was there too. We were 30 people.
That's amazing.
It was in Maui. Yeah. And Ram Dass, like he had a stroke, so he couldn't really, he didn't speak at the same speed as we do. Spoke very slowly, but it was so slowly so that the whole room would be like, it was like meditation was happening the whole time. Because he would say one thing and every single thing that came out of his mouth was so profound. We're just like, Anyway, so Hanuman is Ram Dass's god also, because Ram Dass is the disciple of Neem Karoli Baba, and Neem Karoli Baba was said to be the incarnation of Hanuman.
Okay.
They have like a lineage, right?
Yeah.
So you look at Krishna Das these days, he's also part of that group of people. So I was at that retreat, and they had I'm just going to tell the background story just quickly. Yeah. I know everybody's going to think that I'm completely insane because it's kind of a wacky story, but they had a huge canvas of a picture of Hanuman. It was like several meters high. And one morning I came in and I sat in front of this thing. I was trying to meditate, whatever. And I just started hysterically crying. And it was like as if Hanuman was giving me a darshan, which is like a blessing, right? So I get that now. I didn't get it at the time. But from that moment onwards, it was the Hanuman energy that was coming through Ram Dass that somehow touched my soul, right? And if we talk about past lives and all that stuff, like fine, maybe I was living in India and I was a Hanuman devotee sometime on the years before. But since that day in 2007, Hanuman has been part of my life somehow as an ebb and flow. And he represents, that's where I want to get to. He represents certain spiritual principles that I can relate to well, right?
And what principles are that?
Well, devotion is number one, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's brave, he's devoted, he's a being of high discipline, he's strong, and so, and they say actually that Hanuman is the Hindu god that is the most like Jesus. Like they find the similar characteristics. All loving. So I, for some reason, connected with this on a very, very deep level. And devotion, after that, I've sort of looked into the aspect of devotion and started being devoted to Hanuman in a way where nothing big, you just, you have a little statue and you say a little blessing. And I've been to Hanuman temples and you do like prayer services for Hanuman. But I think what he's taught me is to look into what devotion really means, right? Devotion is love without attachment.
But wait 2 seconds, because I just want to,
Yeah.
we're going to, because when we dive into devotion, I think I have a lot of questions around it, and I really think it's a very deep spiritual principle. But I just want to go back to, because you mentioned that Hanuman was representing some spiritual principles for you, like devotion, like love. Can you deepen that more? What kind of qualities that you are using in your daily life for that Hanuman is representing some qualities that you are integrating in your life, right?
Yeah, and I honestly don't think that it wasn't like I said, okay, here's his qualities, I'm going to live by them too.
No, okay.
But it's more like now in hindsight, because I've written now, because of the website, I've written quite a lot about Hanuman and tried to analyze what it was about him.
Yeah.
And I think that it's his sort of like infinite love for Ram, which is the story of the Ramayana when he saved Sita from the island of Lanka. He's the guy who does whatever it takes. He loves unconditionally. He's devoted without an attachment of any sort of agenda. He dedicates his entire life to his God, who is Ram. So for some reason, again, this is what it's hard to describe. Like those things fall somehow in line with how I live my life too.
I take parallel to my own, my own faith in Buddhism and higher practice, because it's qualities that all people have within themselves, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I guess that's what we're trying to get to. Like, how can you look at the concept of something like devotion, which is he's infinitely devoted, and see how they are functioning in your own life and see what they really mean? Like, what does it really mean, devotion? And how do you get to a place maybe where it can be a clean state of devotion rather than, okay, I did this for you, but
I want this back.
Yeah.
And how would you explain devotion?
Devotion is, that's what I'm saying. Like when you do something for other people without an attachment and you put, you sort of, it's about serving others, right? So as mothers, it's very easy to think about what devotion means because we're devoted to our children. And we don't usually have an attachment about like, if I make you dinner, you're going to love me more. Like it doesn't work like that. We just make dinner and we hope it's nutritious so that they can feel better. And we do it without a goal in mind besides making them not hungry anymore. So that's what devotion looks like in our own lives. So in a lot of people,
you mentioned something, the clean devotion, because I can't stop thinking back of our parents' generation and before that, because of course they maybe didn't talk about devotion, but I think there is a lot of people, even parents, like, okay, if you're going to help me cleaning and doing this, then they project their needs on their children. So that becomes an impure devotion.
Not impure, you shouldn't use that word, I don't think, but it is more complex than the clean, sort of like unattached devotion. So, and we talked about this because I was listening to some podcasts this weekend that I haven't edited yet, but when you talked about the dinner and meals, you had come home, and you were cranky, and you're like, "Where's my dinner?" And I was like, "Well, did he know that you were going to make dinner, or he's going to make dinner?" And so I think that, like, finding a way to think about, and this, I actually learned this from one of my other teachers, Mahan Rishi Sankalsa, who's a Kundalini teacher here in the area where I live in central New Jersey. And I was like, "Oh, these damn dishes. I hate dishes." He's like, "I love dishes." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "I love dishes." And then I realized that, like, for him, he puts his heart into it.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I mean, lately, this is what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to, like, figure out, like, okay, dinner is about devotion.
Yeah.
And taking care of certain things for my family without asking for something in return is devotion. And thinking about their needs without making a big deal out of it, like what can they? That's everyday devotion. The same. I mean, and the thing is that, like, if we think about it in our own lives, all dogs are devoted to their owners.
Yeah.
Right. So that's devotion. Like, they don't expect us to do anything special. They just like, they're there at the door when we come home, and they're like ecstatic that we're home. That's love without attachment. This is, but I think it's just an awareness on, again, why it's like the self-reflection. Why do we do the things we do? And how can I make this, like, the feeling of making dinner or doing the dishes that is unattached is going to have less negative energy in it. And it will feel clean. How can we shift that?
Yeah, how can we shift that? But no, but I think what you said is it's love with non-attachment.
Yeah.
And I think that was very pure and very clean, because and in other words, it's without expecting anything back.
Yeah.
Because
unconditional love is,
yeah, exactly,
when we do things for other people without an attachment. And it doesn't have to be big either. Like, I'm not saying, like, go out and save the world. It's like, how do you, and I feel like it's an unspoken reward, right?
yeah.
I think about the energy that it creates, devotion.
I would say that the energy it creates devotion, sorry to interrupt, but that's space. Because that's exactly what I experienced this weekend when I went up to visit my mother. And I really, first of all, I had decided to dedicate the weekend for her, and it was just to be in service for her. I mean, I wanted to go up there, and that we had so much peace, we had so much fun, and I could see how happy she got because I was not on 10 other appointments. And I would say that what it gave me when I came home was really a sensation of peace inside, and also space. So it's a benefit.
And I think that, like, you had an intention, you set an intention for yourself, like, I'm going to spend this weekend devoted to my mother, which is not like this is not like a hard, you don't have to have a doctorate to figure out, like, this is a good idea, right? That you did that, right? But it's like, then there's no sort of, you didn't want anything from her either, right? You're just going to say, this is what I'm going to do. I work on spiritual principles. I'm going to do this. And then everything. So it's like, I think about this a lot with my own mother. Like, if I just stay focused, it's when we're like, oh, why didn't she say thank you for this thing? Or I did this for her, and why isn't she happier? And blah, blah, blah. All these things, they get in the way. So if we just, like, Hanuman and this is what I'm saying, like the guide, he would never ask anything in return. The dog, Sammy, our dog, he would never ask anything in return. He's just like, okay, hi, what's going on? I'm just focused on you. You're laughing because he, like my dog, he like follows me around all around the house and just sits there and looks at me like this.
It's lovely.
Yeah. In the car, he sits and looks at me, it's like, what's next? What are we doing? I'm so glad you did that. Yeah, I have moments like that too. But I think that like I put, and that's what like a guide like Hanuman can do, like it's just putting awareness on what you're doing.
Yeah, and what I wanted, because when you said that, putting awareness to what you're doing, for me it's also being in the present moment, because that's exactly what I experienced, that I was, the devotion and the unconditional love gave me total present moment.
Yeah.
And I also relating to something else that I learned many years ago. I think it's 10 years ago, when I went to this Buddhist course, and I heard from my mentor, who said that everything he's trying to do, he's doing 100% dedicated. And even the things that he doesn't like to. And I remember that I don't like to I don't mind wash laundry, and I don't mind to hang them up, because I think it's quite nice and I can be mindful about that. It's the smell, it's the wind, and I touch and everything. But I don't like them to put them in the closet, because the closets are so messy. So that's why I stopped. So I try to really be, how can I, really take time to enjoy putting them there, and not thinking that in 10 minutes everything's going to be a mess again. I just try to so I got it. It's really interesting. Yeah,
it can't be perfect, you know what I'm saying?
No, but I'm thinking, because
like...
you no, but you're having the wheel that you have created. You have devotion as a tool, and then you have the element present, and that was a very nice entrance, because that's exactly what I experienced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at devotion, now we're talking about devotion in our life, right? Moms, carpool, dinner, grumpy people. That's what devotion looks like. But and sometimes in yoga, Bhakti Yoga is the path of devotion, is also about other things like singing and kirtan and prayer, and like having an altar, and you light your candles, and I mean, all that stuff is like sort of a way to open up your heart to the energy beyond us, to sort of connect, right? Like devotion is a way to connect with the energy that is beyond us, right? I guess what I'm trying to say, like, we're human beings. So if you like laundry and hanging the laundry, but you hate folding the laundry and putting it away, I mean, what are you going to do, man? It's like, it's just, it's much more fun to sing kirtan with Krishna Das than put away laundry. And maybe that's what you should do. Maybe you should find like your best kirtan music and put it in your AirPods and put away the laundry.
No, but I think you just said it also, because what you do in devotion, as you said, is open up to connect with that energy. And it could be very interesting to see what the trigger is for me. And of course, I can see, without having analyzed it or meditated on it, of course, the trigger is that I think that everyone in my family is just messing it up. And if and then you could go deeper into that, then of course
they don't do enough. I do all this and they don't do enough.
And then back to my mom, 86 years old, standing there and doing her laundry on her own and making her sheets completely perfect in these
in the mangel
in the mangel. It's like, oh my God, what century are we from? She was devoted to do that, and I guess she's happy when she goes to bed with those perfect sheets. No, but I mean, right? Devotion. We all have our different way of being devoted.
Yeah.
I'm devoted.
I mean, I think it's I just think that it's an interesting, like, how do you when do you move away from me, the state of like thinking about
Mm-hmm.
me,
Mm-hmm.
to this other side when you're thinking about, like, I don't necessarily think like, okay, I'm going to do this so that my daughter is happy. I don't go that far.
No,
I feel
no.
like I put these days when I make dinner, and hey, it doesn't happen every night. There's a lot of like takeout pizza and stuff like that. But like there's something about like turning the attention into a space.
Yeah.
You know, so like I'm devoted to this present moment. And then I like to create like a large dinner where everybody has, you know, because everybody wants different things. So it's like when do we get to the point where actually we become like somebody like Hanuman, where we actually
Mm.
have the amount of devotion like you had this weekend. You go up to see your mom and you're not thinking about yourself. You're just thinking about her, but not like, "Oh, I have to make her happy now." You know, it's
No,
like,
exactly.
I'm just here and I'm going to be with
Mm.
her. And, you know, that's a lovely thing. And, you know, when does it move from one to another? So like
Yeah.
what happened here? Like, why was this weekend different for you? Maybe not, maybe in the recent months, but like, how was it? How did this happen that you decided that you were just going to be present for her?
But I think the underlying thing is she's 86, and I thought that you never know. I really wanted to have some time together with her, and it was really natural on me. I really wanted to be in service for her because I know she's appreciated so much. Of course, she's needy, and of course, the last thing she says is like, "Oh, can't you stay for another day? Or it's so bad living so far away, and you know, I'm not living." You know, it's like, oh, why? But I didn't even go into that. That's her, you know. That's how she's battled with the thing. But of course, um, the
But
interesting thing,
would you
yeah.
have done this 2 years ago? Would you have gone up without making plans with other things?
Yeah, but I would not have felt. I done it before, you know, but I have always felt like I had to bring one of the kids. Of course, I asked the kids this time also if they wanted to come, and I'm really happy they all said no. And also that I know that my mother becomes very, you know, she's like a child. So when I'm with my children and I have hers, it's like having a fourth child, battling from the, you know, so it's not fun.
Yeah.
But this gave me one thing too, actually, that I would be better to do things one-on-one with my children because I become a better version of myself when I'm dedicated to have one person in focus. It was because it came very clear to me when I came home last night and all three kids were here and Nis was out working. You know, I was like, oh my God, I'm back into this, like going that, going this, well,
Yeah.
boom, um,
But this is very interesting, Louise,
yeah,
because
yeah,
now
yeah.
you just said it's better for me to do one-on-one,
Yeah,
right?
but that's not the selfish thing because I think when I am in a good place, that's the energy I give away. When
Hmm.
I'm stressed and distracted and feeling bad that I'm not having time enough to each one, then that's the energy I'm sending out.
Yeah. So
So
I guess what I'm saying is,
yeah,
how do you find the energy that you have with your mother and when you're present for her when you come through the door
mm-hmm.
and you've come off a flight from Stockholm into your home in Copenhagen, and you walk through the door and there's three children there, your
And a
husband's
dog.
not home, and a dog, everybody needs a piece of you. How do you bring this energy that you had with your mother and that you have one-on-one with your children into that? That's my
I don't
question.
know. Yeah, but that's a wonderful question. I wish you could give me an answer to that, but then I could practice it for the next time because it didn't go that
I
way.
know, but you're gonna figure that. You're gonna figure this out because that's there. It's not you can't select the times,
No.
right? You know, you have to. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You can say, "Fuck it, I don't care about this." But I'm saying that's the practice. It's like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
not say, "Oh, I wish I just had one at a time." Just say, "Okay," because I sometimes, you know, I know that when you walk through the door, when I walk through
Mm-hmm.
the door.
Yeah.
It gets the energy gets um there's friction, right?
Yeah.
Like, so how do I hold that space?
Yeah, how do you
when
do
I
that?
I think about it. I have awareness. I say, like, especially if I've gone to Sweden and visited my mom, for example, and I come home and I've been gone for a week, I come in and I know that I feel this sort of like, it can get, that's when there's like the irritation and friction.
Yeah. This is, I can identify
I
some of it.
just say, I try to like do things like simple things, like sit down by the table in the center of the house and just ask questions. So like with my husband, I'll be like, how was your day? You know, not fake, not fake. I care. I love him. So it's not fake. I'm just, I literally physically will sit down and listen so that they can feel heard and connected to me again.
But I know, and that's what I did yesterday. I did, and we all gathered outside, and it took about 2 seconds, and then Holly and Elton was up fighting. And I got pissed because there was a dog shit next to my seat and no one had picked it up. Because
hey, that's life.
I know, and knowing because then they hadn't walked the dog probably. So then I felt sorry for the dog.
Yeah.
But I was in awareness, but knowing also, I think it's important to say that when we're becoming aware, doesn't mean that we are in a comfortable.
Oh no, awareness can be
Yeah.
when you're having a stressful situation.
Yeah. And I think that was that. It's very interesting we're talking about it because that's exactly what happened yesterday. And I went back when I went to bed. I did my healing, which gave me. I could feel that I was stressed in my belly again. I could feel like okay, and it came back to me being the perfect mom or wanted to fix everyone. And at that moment, I could just letting go of it, and then I fell asleep.
Oh, that's interesting. Actually, I want to tell a story that I don't know if it has anything to do with devotion specifically, but it has to do with this standing in chaos.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, I think it was 2021, we had arrived in Stockholm and we were going to a small little local beach in Stockholm with my daughter's best summer friend. Her name is Naomi, and she lives next to us in where we have our summer house. We were in Stockholm. She also lives right next to us in Stockholm. So we had picked her up in our little Volkswagen Golf that we have, and we went to this little beach. And then we were driving home from the little beach, and the kids were just so happy to see each other. They're in the back, and we cross over a large road in Stockholm called Vallalavägen, where there's like a middle walking path.
Yeah.
So you have the cars going in each direction on each side, and then there's like a bunch of parking in the middle. And in the middle of that is a walking path where people bike and walk. So when we turn to go like a U-turn around to the other side of the Vallalavägen, a girl on an electric scooter rams right into the side of my car. I mean, I didn't see her because she came from the left, and she comes like, thankfully she didn't come like a second before, because I would have run into her with the front of my car, but she ended up like right in the door next to my daughter, right? And she fell underneath, her one leg was underneath the car and pinched by my back tire, a little bit pinched. And there was a lot of traffic that day, like that. I, of course, stopped the car, and she's lying. I got out of the car, and I'm scared because I'm freaking out, and I want to like hit the brake, and I'm scared of loosening my gas pedal. So I'm sitting there with my foot on the gas pedal, like in a panic. But anyway, somehow I don't remember. I got out of the car, and a bunch of people come running, and they helped me lift. My car is very small, so they lifted up the tire, and I was able to. I mean, she was a big girl. I'm kind of small. She was at least a head taller than me. She was like 16 years old. And I dragged her out with, you know, how you become strong in an emergency. Dragged her off. I lift her up and like I literally put her like a baby over my shoulder. And she was hysterical, right? And I just was holding her tight. And I said, "You're fine. It's just that your leg got pinched. Everything else is fine. You're fine. Everything's fine." Right. And I just held her. And then the ambulance at some point came and they took her, you know, it was pretty fast, all these things. So this is all happening. And then the cops come and the ambulance and the fire department, and, you know, it's like chaos, right? And the kids are still sitting in the car like this, like, oh. So I remember standing there after they had took her away, and I knew that the cops would have to talk to me once all this was over. So I was standing there with my feet on the ground, just breathing from my nose, just calmly. I just stood there like a calm, almost like as a robot, just waiting for this this event to like pass, right? And then I went up to one of the cops and I said, "Would it be okay if the children walked home from here?" Because we were pretty close to our house. And he said, "Yes, they can leave, but we have to take the car." So they walked away, and then I knew this can take an hour, it can take 10 minutes. So I just stood there, literally just breathing calmly. And then they asked me a bunch of questions, which was also like, because it's like, how do you know that she didn't, like, I somehow had a part in this? I was completely like, you know, I knew she had run into the side of my car, but I didn't really care. All I wanted to do was it was such an intense situation.
Yeah.
I just, like, it's not sort of like when you come through the door and your dog has pooped in the yard and you're sort of caught off guard, but this was so intense that I like literally was like, okay, there's nothing I can do besides be present here. So the cops asked me a bunch of questions, and then finally they got me information, and I was, of course, super worried about the girl, like asking how, you know, was she going to be okay, blah, blah, blah. So I came home finally, and I didn't call my husband to tell him what happened because I felt like if I talk about this, it's going to upset me even more. So quietly, I like did the dishes, I cleaned, I sat quietly in the apartment, and I made a little dinner, and I just didn't actually talk. I just tried to keep really quiet, and I just trying to give this over.
But did you do this with awareness, or you were in a shock? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But I just remember saying, I'm not going to do anything besides just like tidy a little bit, not like scrub the walls. Like, this is just simple tidying. And then after about 2 hours, the cop called me, and he said, "I just want to let you know that I'm at the hospital right now, and I know you're worried. And the girl is completely fine. And we see absolutely no fault at yours here." And I was like, and of course it could have gone any way, but I didn't expect him to call me. But I feel like there was something about the energy where I was like completely, I didn't try to fix it. I didn't try to call somebody. I didn't like call my lawyer and say, how can we, it just was like, and then he called, and he sort of said, everything's fine. You're fine. You're not at fault here. And the girl is fine, which was my main concern.
Yeah, of course.
It was minor scrapes on her leg. Like, she hadn't gotten any injury. It just looked a little bit worse than it was with the tire almost pinching her leg. But I remember how I sort of I was like that tree in the middle of the storm. The wind was blowing. But I took, it was such an intense situation that there was nothing else I could do, right? Besides, you know, because my reaction 15 years earlier would have been like calling somebody and my mom, and I fixed this, and calling the cops to try to figure out where she was and find out if she was okay, and complete hysteria around it. But the kids were there, so I knew that I couldn't do that. Like, I had to be confident that everything was fine and that she was fine for the kids' sake. So awareness. That's where it is. That's the party.
That's the journey we're on. That's the journey we're on. Awareness. Yeah. Awareness, even awareness in the difficult times.
Yeah, and presence. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
So
thank you
we
for
lost our
sharing that.
train there.
No, I don't think we lost it. I think that, I mean, in the end of the day, everything goes into to the bigger whole of the awakening process that we're talking about. So, of course, we try to find themes so people can stay a little bit more aligned with us. And if they wanted to deepen their understanding of what we're saying, they can always go into the website, and it's written about Hanuman there. It's written about devotion and all things that we have discussed. I think we should do a little, yes.
Yeah, I just want to say again, like that, you know, I write about how the fact that Hanuman is can be anybody. It's not specific, like he's that thing for me. And it could be any symbol of infinite love and devotion, unattached to devotion or courage in your life. I'm not touting Hindu gods, but you know, it is whatever it is for you.
Yeah. You know, and I have my Buddhism, so I mean,
exactly.
Whatever we find as a source that makes us feel home and that can gives us some life force and some dedication to live with deeper awareness in our lives.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're going to end here.
Yeah, I think we're going to end here. But I just want to do the short recap. That now you mentioned Hanuman, and I said that you can read more about it on the, and you know, it's the energy. We talked about devotion. I think that if someone wants to cultivate devotion for this week, that could be, you know, you said it, so it's the pure way of unconditional love. It's infinite love. It's really to do something in service for others and maybe also for yourself, actually, but not expecting anything back.
Yeah. I mean, just a short thing. When I worked at MySpace a long time ago, I remember that some days I was like, you know, doing I was in accounting and I did so much work, and I kept on repeating to myself, like, I am working for the universal energy. Like the amount of work that I'm putting in is not just in service of the company, it's to serve the greater good. And that's sort of how I kept myself going. So that's if you want to have like a tool, like think about how you can serve something that is like larger than the thing that you're actually doing. Like, I make dinner for my husband, but then maybe you think about, I'm making dinner for the well-being of my entire family. You know, to take it a step farther, to sort of put your heart into a cleaner place, in case you're somebody who, you know, you get resentments along the way because you get tired and whatever. But looking at the larger good of what you're actually devoted to, when you're taking your devoted actions.
That sounds, and also just to end up that also the benefits of being devoted to something is really the access. It is the present moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and love. Love doesn't have to be two-way. It could be just
no. But yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All
Loves
right.
you.
I love you, baby. Thank you so much.
I love you. Thank you so much. Thank you for another great session and podcast. I'm looking forward to next time.
Okay.
Okay.
See you later.
Love you. Okay.
Bye.
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 Bye.